So, welcome to our panel discussion on Karma Yoga, which is a very important topic, and we believe that this could be a solution for the future social structure or social organization. So, for any sustainable society, Karma Yoga is the key because it connects spirit and matter in action, which is the most difficult thing to do, as we heard already. So it's much easier to go into meditation, close your eyes, go deep within, forget about the world, and then you have a contact. But how can you be connected when you do something? Act, walk, write, think, calculate. Can you be connected to the spirit? Here comes a big issue, big problem. It's not loud enough. I will. Okay. So the whole idea is very interesting because we believe that labor is difficult. Somehow we inherited it from our traditions. Yeah? You remember in the Bible when Adam and Eve were cast from the paradise, they were cursed to earn in sweat and blood their bread. There was a curse. So when they came down on earth, they had to work hard. And that labor is a difficult endeavor, as we know. We don't like to work hard. Yeah? We like to relax, to be ourselves. And working hard is something we try to avoid. That's why we have the idea of pension, of retirement, of earning enough money to retire and do what we want. So we inherited the idea of labor as something we want to avoid or to do the least we can. But in the Gita, it's totally different view on the work. Work as the spiritual progress, as the joy of being involved in the growth of consciousness. Can labor be leading us to bliss rather than to retirement and wanting to withdraw from activity? Can activity be part of the spiritual growth? This is the biggest question, and that's how Gita and Sri Krishna addresses this issue. He speaks about Karma Yoga as the most ancient yoga, which was in time forgotten, which he, as you remember, gave to Ikshvaku, or he gave it to Vivasvat first. Vivasvat gave it to Manu, Manu gave it to Ikshvaku, the first king of the solar dynasty, who, in time, passing this yoga, the secret of connection of spirit and matter, or action and perception, which are split in our time, passed it forward. And in time this yoga was nashta, lost, as Gita says. And now he gives it back to Arjuna, saying that Arjuna you are my bhakta, my beloved, you love me, that's why I reveal to you the secret of Karma Yoga. So what is this Karma Yoga about? How can we be perceptive and active at the same time? If you think of this yoga we developed over last 3,000 years, it is all about sitting in one posture, closing the eyes, closing ears, looking within, stop thinking, stop breathing even, and diving as deep as we can. But the moment we open our eyes, move our hands, start thinking, it all disappears. So how can that activity of our faculties of consciousness be connected to the source, to the inner source. So there is either we look without and act without, or we look within. When we look within, we lose that what is without. When we look without, we lose the contact with the within. As Satyavan would say in Savitri, when I looked upon the world, I lost the self. When I found the self, I lost the world. But now when you, Savitri, came down to us, the golden link, the golden bridge is established. What is that golden bridge which connects the inner perception and outer action? That's the fundamental question of our psychology, which we cannot solve easily. We need to practice it. There are many ways of practicing it, and one of them is what was suggested by Sri Aurobindo to Pavitra. Pavitra was asking the same question. I think I was addressing this before in the previous our meeting, in the previous retreat. He asked Sri Aurobindo, how can I be, when I am in meditation, I feel the presence and pressure, but when I start thinking actively or doing something, it disappears. So how can I, sustain that presence while being active? And Sri Aurobindo gives him a very interesting advice. He says, you go slow. You keep what you perceive, and you start acting a little mechanically, outside. That's why all those washing dishes in the ashram. Why washing dishes? Because it's a mechanical work. And you can keep the contact with the spirit. And slowly train yourself to do spiritually the work. To bring the presence into the action of indriyas, karmendriyas, into your hands, into your voice, into your mind, feelings, and slowly it will be settled there. But it is a practice. In the Vedic times it was different. It was sacrifice, yajna. And yajna was to invoke higher powers, universal powers, and bring them down for all of us, not only for myself, but for all people and for all creatures, to bring those higher powers of consciousness and to make them work here. So with our aspiration flame from within, we call to these devatas and they come down and they start changing our perception while we are being active. And that was the secret knowledge which was revealed in the Gita. Interestingly, even Auroville came to that point where Mother says Auroville is for those who are willing or who want to do karma yoga. This was her last message to Auroville. Karma yoga. They have to take work and do it as yoga. Take work and do it as yoga. And all the blessings and all the powers she sent to all of us to be able to fulfill that. But of course we are human beings and we took those powers and did something else with all of it. Yeah. So the same idea is in the synthesis, and I would like maybe that Angelo would address that. Yeah, it's under. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, you can hold on. Okay.
It's okay. People can hear me? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you brought up the Gita and yoga works. Sri Aurobindo says something in the synthesis of yoga where he says, greatest gospel of works given to man is in the Gita. And so he takes that as a basis, for his elucidation of karma yoga and how to synthesize or integrate karma yoga into his larger vision of synthetic integral yoga. And just, about the synthesis of yoga, Sri Aurobindo says, greatest gospel of works given to man in the Gita. I think we can also say what is written in Synthesis of Yoga, what Sri Aurobindo has written, many chapters about karma yoga, starting from what is in the Gita as a base, but going beyond into something supramental that's equal to, at least, if not greater than what is in the Gita, which he called the greatest gospel of works given to men. So one takeaway, if you don't remember anything else, read the Synthesis of Yoga. Sections on karma yoga are very inspiring and answer all questions about karma yoga in the workplace, which is what we kind of have as a topic, or any other context. You also mentioned about the Vedic rishis and the Vedic sacrifice, and Sri Aurobindo also speaks about that in Synthesis of Yoga chapters, the ascent of the sacrifice. And that's actually, a very crucial element of karma yoga in his vision. Starting somewhat from perspective of Gita, but work done as a sacrifice to the divine. And I think that's, when we talk about karma yoga, we're talking about work, how to differentiate work, what we always do, what human beings do, and karma yoga. And central principle is changing the motivation or the motive of work. So from ordinary perspective, we seek different things. We take up work and we seek success, or money, or fame, or, in the best case, doing our duty. However, that's presented to us as the thing we're supposed to do. And that's the motive of work. And, to take up karma yoga is to change the motive of work from whatever that, mental, vital ideal of work is, to work done as a sacrifice to the divine. Through work, to become conscious of, unite with the divine consciousness, to grow into the divine consciousness as a principal element, and further on to become the instrument of the divine work. And that is,
right.
something you can, that there's no end to that. As we didn't mention, but Isha Upanishad, doing works in the world, one should wish to live 100 years. But, really there's no limit. You can work 300 years. The mother, she mentioned, well, if I had to do all that I want to do, in this body to realize the goal, I would need 300 years minimum. She mentioned in the agenda. So, 100 years, 300 years, one can go on and never reach the end of karma yoga. And, that's, the context, is not really important, whether that's, karma yoga in an ashram, or karma yoga in the workplace, or, whatever is the context. Karma yoga is karma yoga, and that's a long path.
Yeah, maybe some clarification is needed for sacrifice, because people usually understand it as something, doing something hard to yourself in order to get something better. So you have to give up on something. Sri Aurobindo says it's not like that. It's totally different. It's a blessing in a way, you know. Because what you do, you make the part of your life and activities and energies sacred. You charge them with the presence, and they turn to be luminous and effective and productive, and you are part of that process of growth of consciousness. So we think about sacrifice that we lose something. Of course, we lose our egoistic attachment to what we are, and that for some part of our nature can be painful. Yes, because you have to change, and change is painful if you look from this side where you don't want to change. But if you look from another side, from the deeper, from your inner being, then change is the most welcome. It is something you want, really, truly. So the sacrifice becomes a blessing, yeah? Rather than a curse or some, you know. And what Angelo mentioned about Karma Yoga, Sri Aurobindo in the Gita, in the essays on the Gita, describes this very beautifully as the whole Gita and Purna Yoga is described as the first step is Karma Yoga. When we make this offering, we make an offering of our being, of our activity, of our body to the divine. Whether it will be taken or not, it's a question yet. If it is taken, that means our smoke of our fire, as he says, reaches up to heaven. And heaven is Jnana Yoga, when we realize ourselves. Interestingly, Krishna says the same in the Gita, Sarvam karma khulam partha jnane parisamapyate. All the karma, without remainder, ends up in the knowledge experience. We are doing karma here for growth of consciousness. Karma is not done for anything else. Karma is the sacrifice. Whatever we do as karma, as work, it is only for growth of consciousness, one way or another. We learn something from doing it. We learn something how not to do it. We are constantly growing in consciousness. It ends up there. It is for that sake. And that smoke coming to heaven is exactly reaching up to the self-realization. Heaven is jnana, or knowledge, self-knowledge. And once these two unite, the heaven answers. And it answers, when we know the divine, glimpse of the divine, we get this descent into the heart, bhakti appears. But that is true bhakti, bhakti from knowing the divine. And then this triple way continues, and karma doesn't stop. It becomes more and more luminous from knowledge, self-knowledge, and from the love to the divine. It is charging, karma is charging knowledge and love is charging karma and knowledge, and this true in triple way is continuing to grow. It's our, look at our constitution. We have a mind, head, we have a heart, yeah? Torso, and we have action, will. So if we combine three, our will, our mind, and our heart, they become one. That is yukta, that is the united personality. And this is the solution for our development. What can be better?
Yeah, further to that point, emphasizing karma yoga, you mentioned, the mother's instruction, at the end of her life to the Aurovillians, laying the emphasis that karma yoga, do karma yoga, this is what Auroville is for. I find it interesting that even, in our day and age, as we say, there's still kind of some very deep-rooted, samskaras or ideas, that karma yoga is some lesser thing. I mean, just whatever. 2 months ago, it just comes as a topic that somebody talks about the Gita and what the Gita says about karma and akarma, inaction, action, and work is a path for lesser developed people, and at some point, eventually you'll get to jnana yoga, and then you'll be good, and you can leave behind karma yoga. And I find it a bit shocking to still kind of encounter this, after all what Sri Aurobindo wrote, and even this is people who are supposed to be familiar with Sri Aurobindo, who come to conferences like these, and still this idea is so strong. I find it a bit strange.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess it bears repeating that, I think there's a quotation of the mother where she says, the more she goes, the more she knows that it is through work that, Sri Aurobindo's yoga can best be practiced. So, it's, you brought up triple path, and that's a key element. And in the synthesis, Sri Aurobindo says that the ideal way is if you can take it straight from the beginning, that karma yoga is there as your practice from the beginning. And if you leave it, till the end, or somewhere till the end, I'm a whatever, jnana yogi, bhakti yogi, you'll be presented with some very strong difficulties when you all of a sudden try to deal with the external nature and action and the world of action. So, he puts a strong emphasis that, karma yoga is essential, and the best is you start it from the beginning.
Absolutely. And if you look at these karma yoga, jnana yoga, and bhakti, three major yogas, which constitute purna yoga or integral yoga, which is the same word, purna and integral, we can translate it like this. You will see also the same thought is in the social arrangement of liberty, equality, and fraternity, which Sri Aurobindo brings forward from French Revolution and from American Revolution. It's quite interesting that these three elements of will, knowledge, and heart, love, have to be together, have to constitute the whole nature of human society. And he says that between these two, equality in the mind, which is more like socialistic approach, socialism, equality for all, and liberty, freedom of will, which is more like, we have Republicans and Democrats, the same split, interestingly. But that cannot be easily reconciled without fraternity. There has to be the link, the heart, the true love towards everyone in this society. And that psychic love is the key for this reconciliation between the mind and the will, the freedom of will and the mental equality in the society. So wherever we see only socialistic arrangement, we know that it lacks, and it will start lacking, the individual liberty, which is needed. It's the key for the progress, because individual is the target. The major development comes through individual. Society is changing through individual change. Society cannot change without changing individuals. It's not going to happen. There is no such path. Individuals bring the change. So the individual will and freedom is absolutely crucial, your choice, and that is karma yoga. You have to make your choice. You have to make your offering to your higher growth of consciousness, to reach to heaven, to reach to self-realization, to know your secret self. And that will answer to you with love towards the divine, and that would be the psychic awakening. So this is the framework in which we think about integral yoga mainly. And so we open to your comments, discussions. Yeah, yes, there are two microphones there. It should be more interactive. What do you think about it? No.
My understanding all this time is that dharma is duty and karma is action of good and bad. So always my reading says you have to be watching what you're doing so you cannot create karma, the bad karma. But I find out that you're confusing me with your definition of karma. No.
Yeah, you have a later definition of karma which came with Mayavada and Buddhism especially. Sanskaras and creating some kind of consequence, yeah? And karma in the Gita even, it's not karma which is consequences of your action. Yeah? And even in the Gita already, not to say about karma in the Upanishads, in the Isha Upanishad which you mentioned, Kurvanneveha karmani jijivishet samaha. It's not there. And in the Veda, it is purely the sacrifice. Moreover, as Sanskrit kind of student, I can say that root kri was used differently in the Veda. There is karoti and there is krinoti. And this krinoti is more active root. It has some kind of causing certain changes. Root kri has also krit, to cut. So it's like you are taking something and rearrange parts in the more conscious manner. There is another root, krish, karshati, from which Krishna is most probably derived. And that root is also to cultivate soil which is uncultivated, make it charged with the spirit. It has a proper idea of cultivation by the spirit. Yeah? So bringing some consciousness into the arrangement of things. And that is karma, basically. But later, karma is, of course, you do something and you have consequences. Yeah? So they shifted from the sacrifice, from doing conscious arrangement towards what is waiting for you if you do this. Yeah? Dharma is from udhri, to hold. It is something which is holding your proper nature. Yeah? What is dharma and what is adharma? It is asked by, in Mahabharata at the end of his Dharma Parva, I don't know what is dharma. I know what is dharma, I know what is adharma, Bhishma says. Yeah? But I don't understand why dharma is not attracting me, but adharma attracts me. There is something interesting to refer to. Why adharma is so attractive? Because it's kind of misplacement of things in time and space, which is causing the curiosity for us, because we believe inwardly that everything is the divine and everything should work. But it doesn't work because there are certain dharmic relations imposed on the world for now. In this transition, we are constantly in transition. So that dharma is important to follow. I'm kind of maybe going off a bit. Mm.
Yeah, I could just to kind of answer a bit more directly, conventional understanding karma is, whatever good or bad consequences which you either of your action, which you either, suffer or enjoy in this life, or suffer and enjoy, in later life. When we speak about karma or karma yoga, it is just action. And not work, as in necessarily just, your occupation. That's just a subset. Karma is action of whatever kind in the world. So consequences of action, that's something, okay, then it's like karma. But karma yoga is just action. And dharma is, conventional point of view, what's right, what's morally right, what's expected of someone in a certain situation, what you're supposed to do That's the conventional moral idea, your dharma, or you, as whatever. You're a father, you're a child, a teacher, you're a boss. You have certain moral principles, what you're supposed to be doing, that's your dharma, which has not really so much place in integral yoga or karma yoga because they're rather relative. We have certain mental principles which we find, very important in our time and age, culture, and that can be very different in another time, another age, another culture, another place. So the moral ideas are kind of relative, but the pursuit of, dharma, what is right, what is wrong, takes on a spiritual element when you take up karma yoga. Because that's the search that, that's a society cannot tell you, your own conscience cannot tell you. That's something that comes from a deeper search, what is right and what is wrong. So conventionally, dharma is that, karma is something else, but here we're just talking about karma as action.
And Sri Aurobindo also introduces Swadharma, which is built on Swabhava, on your inner nature. You have a particular dharma of your own incarnation and work here. You came to work out something, to learn something. Your soul made a plan, a vision, intention is there. So you have to fulfill that, and when you fulfill it, you follow your Swadharma. And there is another term, Sanatana Dharma, which is for all of us as the divine beings here, to fulfill the divine in manifestation. So there are dharmas upon dharmas, most probably, and especially social dharmas, and they are simplified as duties at the end, but it is more complex. And in Buddhism it has its own meaning also. So there are many, because a very loaded term, they translate dharma as religion in the West. What is not a religion. So you can imagine how far one can go away from them.
Yeah, just a last point, since we were, talking about the Gita and what Sri Aurobindo has said about the Gita, and you kind of look a bit confused. But one important point, which Krishna makes kind of at the end of this teaching about the Gita, about karma yoga, and what Sri Aurobindo mentions, as a kind of pinnacle, abandon all dharmas. So what Krishna says to Arjuna, abandon all dharmas and take refuge in me alone. And that gives the key to, okay, what is the dharma? It's some kind of relative mental principle which ultimately, one has to surpass. If you take refuge in the divine straight, you'll know what is the right thing beyond, the dharmas.
Yes, Makrant.
So for me, when we say karma yoga is action that I have chosen to perform, karma yoga, but I'm doing it as an offering. I'm doing that action as an offering, and it's chosen by me, any karma yoga. When I think that I'm going to be involved in performing a havan, that's a sacrifice to me. Am I thinking right?
Well, karma yoga is... yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
You don't want to lose track. No, I was just going to say that earlier Patricia said that the English language is very confusing. And this is an illustration of that. Because words... can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was just saying that yesterday we were talking about these questions, and Patricia was saying that the English language is very confusing. And I mean, I completely appreciate your question, ma'am, because words such as karma and dharma are practically untranslatables. So you have to figure your way out by thinking through equivalences. You have to find equivalences. Now, in this conversation, what I thought was important was karma yoga in the workplace. So the whole discussion was about work. And earlier, the word that Vladimir used was labor. Now, labor doesn't have a very positive connotation. Often you associate it with forced labor, and all kinds of other negative connotations. Now, as far as the theory of karma yoga is concerned, the idea was, as I understand it, that which can bind you, which can tie you in chains of causality, because karma is, this infinite chain of causality. Gahana karmana gati, as Sri Krishna says, or as Kabir says, where Alok Bhai is fond of quoting, he says, karma ki gati nyari sadhu. So it's a very complex chain of causality. So how do you use it to free yourself rather than bind yourself? Now that is the discussion, at least in the Gita and in other ideas of karma yoga. Now, just a little word about work, because I think that, there's labor on the one side and there is play on the other side. So when children play, when we do a lot of things in the spirit of playing, or when artists work, they're creating, and they're so absorbed in a state of flow, it leads to happiness, So the kri dhatu, can lead to cry, krandana, or it can be creative. I mean, there are similar dhatus in English and Sanskrit, And kri as Krishna. Krishna is the pastoral deity, if you look at the evolutionary idea. But, I mean, the long and short of it is, if you go back to the Gita, the most famous verse of the Gita is karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Now, the next line is equally important, because he says, ma karma phala hetur bhur ma te sangostva karmani. So, what he is saying is that you have adhikar, that is, you have the right to work as hard as you want, for whatever you want. But the outcome is not in your hands. So, if you don't get attached to that desired outcome, you'll be free. Otherwise, if you don't get it, you'll be miserable. But he also says in the next line that you can't be attached to inaction either. You can't say, I'm going to be lazy. Because the big question in the Gita, at least in the Sankhya Yoga chapter, this is from chapter 2, verse 46, if I'm not mistaken, is who is the doer? There is no doer as such, because the gunas are acting and they will make you act. Like, let us say, tamo guna, they say tamas is not good, but tamas is very good, otherwise you would never sleep. You would be like on cocaine, running around all the time. So tamas is really good. You sleep, but then you can't sleep forever, because the sun shines, something happens, and you want to get up. And you force somebody in the morning, say, do not get up today. You'll see how miserable they become. So the secret of action is what the Gita is about. And then if you bring it to the workplace, if you somehow find work liberating and joyous, that would be great. But usually that doesn't happen. And I'll end with this, because there was a big debate and controversy in India when the founder of Infosys, Mr. Narayan Murthy, said that, we used to work 15 hours, 18 hours a day, and we never minded. Why is it that the younger people today only want to work, 9 to 5, and then they want to moonlight in the afternoon, or in the evening, they want a second job? So this became a big controversy. And then somebody said, yeah, if it's your own company, if it's your own startup, You can work 24/7, but here I'm working for you and I'm not going to be paid anymore. You know? So now you relate it to the ashram. Not everybody thinks that the work assigned is yagya. Okay? Even the great Nirodbaran, when he joined, he was assigned the lumber room. He's a doctor, and he writes in his book, he rebelled. His spirit was rebelling, you know, that wherever I've been put, I'm a, you know, foreign-trained, Edinburgh-trained doctor, and of course, eventually, he got the duties that were fit for his svabhava and swadharma. But that break with the attachment of the ego, etc., is very, very difficult. And even in the ashram, people sometimes feel that the work given to them is just drudgery, you know, if they reveal it to you. So I appreciate this discussion because it is meant to lead us to a state where we are not chained by the work that we are supposed to do, but that it elevates us and liberates us. Thank you very much. So let's not get tied up with the nomenclature and the translations.
I think it was in 1942 when the Scripps proposal, you may know that was going to give India its autonomy. And when Sri Aurobindo got hold of that proposal, he wrote a letter to Gandhi saying, accept this proposal. But Gandhi rejected it, so why is he interfering? So when Sri Aurobindo got the response that Gandhi had refused to accept that proposal, so they asked him, aren't you upset? Sri Aurobindo's response was, Nashkarma karma. This is what he referred to earlier, which is, you do it but not looking for anything in return. No. You're doing, as you said earlier, sacrifice the offering. You do it as an offering and don't expect anything from it except feel the joy in that offering.
Yeah. So kartavyam karma is another term, the karma which has to be done. By the way, I appreciate very much this point which you brought, Makrand, with freedom from the fruit of action, because how to do karma yoga action without with attachment to the fruit, to the result, there is no karma yoga with this. This is the major topic, but there are two more liberations to be made. So this is the first. You have the right for the action, but not for its fruit. Act, yes. But don't think that you must arrive at that, result. You may have it in the mind, but don't attach yourself to it too much. Don't expect of this. You must have a plan. It's okay to have a plan. Do it. Then there is second liberation, which is very important. Liberation from the modality of action. So I like to do it this way. I know it to be done this way. I have my profession. I know what is to be a doctor, good doctor. I don't want, this is my svadharma. This is attachment which restricts us to a particular modality of action and does not allow us to be free in choices how to do things, how to learn about the world and ourselves. And the third, of course, is liberation from the actor himself. Because you are not the actor, it seems, then when you are free from the fruit and from the modality, you arrive at understanding that gunas are doing the work. Prakriti is the worker, and you are the observer and sankshana later. And then you are Ishvara, actually, at the end. But first you have to be a sakshi, yes? You have to be the witness. How to arrive at witness? By doing works. Here, this is the simple prescription. Freedom from the fruit of action, freedom from the choice of modality of action, and freedom from the actor, sense of actor. Of course you will be acting, and even ego you will be acting, but something else will be there which would look at it and wonder what is going on. So the whole thing is laid out for us to follow. If you want to practice it, it is there.
I would just like to make a comment also on this before we go back to Hansa, her question. But you brought up labor. The Vladimir related. The biblical context and the exile of the angels.
Adam and Eve, yeah.
Adam and Eve, whomever it was. And that they were kind of fated to labor and sweat and toil. And you spoke about experience of drudgery and labor. As a word, carries a heavy, negative connotation. One thing I want to bring out in this kind of context, and karma yoga in the workplace, integral yoga, Sri Aurobindo, it's a bit more obscure, but he saw it as an element of divine perfection, which you come across in the record of yoga or later chapters of Synthesis of Yoga, where he speaks about dasa, and an attitude of or consciousness of servility or service, and that was one element of his perfection, which was integral to what he was doing, and not to be neglected. So it's like everyone want to be the boss, everyone want to be the lion, and Sri Aurobindo, he's even got his thoughts and aphorisms. You want to be the Superman, you want to be the lion, and he speaks about the true heraldry, of the Superman, which is the lion seated on the camel, which is seated on the cow, and it's not, there's not this hierarchy where the lion or the boss or the king, they're free from the labor and the drudgery, and the servant is some lesser thing, and that's also something which shouldn't be overlooked, and even in that line of Savitri, which is like something magnificent, where he says, forever love, oh beautiful slave of God. So, we want to be the instrument, we want to be the divine worker, we want to arrogate to ourselves, different things. Servant of God, that's kind of cool, but slave of God as the supreme realization, that's something also which should come into our conception, I believe.
Yes,
Wait,
Abhinav.
we had one more question over here. Did you have a question or not? No? Yeah, I thought you had your hand up. No? Yes or no? Okay, we're moving. Yeah.
In Hindu tradition, there is a significance of adhikar. And the same word is used, karmanyeva adhikaraste. So where is this adhikar come from? Because it has several shades of meaning. It's normally translated as a right to work. But adhikar also means qualification. It also means power. So where it says, you have adhikar, Arjun, where is that adhikar coming from? Then all the other things follow, ma phaleshu kadachan and all that. But where is the source of that adhikar? Because it's applicable to everybody.
And what is your thought?
I think it is the swadharma, but I do not know. That's what I'm asking.
It's an interesting question, because if we analyze the word adhikara, yes, with long R, it is something which is causing you to, it's like a topic, it's like the biggest, something which is guiding your behavior, or something which is at the head of all that you have to keep as a guiding star. I'm just making some, allusions about it. But it is adhikara, it is something which is causing you to rise. Or because causing of long kara, it's like karayati of causative. I'm just going into grammar, why a long I is there. But otherwise it should be adhikara, shota. Yeah? Adhikara. You don't need spelling. It's Sanskrit spelling, so, well, so this is a question why adhikara was used, most probably as a guiding principle, as a principle which is guiding you, yes? And it fits into that shloka somehow, as something major which drives your action, which causes your action to be. Yeah? So every motivation maybe even. So your motivation should not be in the fruit of action, but in the action itself. We are motivated always by the fruit. This is the problem of our life, yes? Why should I do something if I don't want it? It's ridiculous, yeah? But it doesn't mean that you don't need to want it. You can have in your mind some outcome, some plan, but you should not attach yourself, like with desire to get there, whatever, because what happens then, you become like this horse, You don't see more possibilities of realizing the ideal. So when that is narrowed and focused only on the aim, that I have to reach that aim, you lose all your life. You lose the presence, you lose the... Focus is there, but focus makes you narrow also. So you have to stay wide, do the action, see the aim. You have to have an aim. You move towards something, but you do not attach yourself with desire to get there. So it's a psychological treatment. You psychologically free yourself already. You want to arrive at that, but you don't attach yourself. You will not die for that aim or something. Yeah? Because on the way, things may change. And the divine may interfere. You have to listen to the divine always. And do the work at the same time. And have an aim, and have a plan. And still do the work. HP knows it very well. He has his own idea, and then he sees how things are unfolding. Many times it is unfolding many different ways, unexpected ways. And you have to be flexible enough to incorporate them, to allow them to be. That's why no attachment to the fruit. The aim is there, but not absolutely exclusively. You have to incorporate many more things.
Can I?
Yes, please. Please.
Yeah, I wanted to add quickly here. Yeah, to me, adhikar here, the connotations, since we're having an open discussion, connotations of surrender, samarpan to Agni, surrendering to the divine will in this moment, which alludes automatically to not attaching to that initial want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Agni is the Deva.
Absolutely, this is the Vedic idea, yes.
Yeah. Kratu.
If you offer everything to flame, to your inner flame, which you kindled and keep it alive, then where is that desire, your personal desire of attachment? You are already fulfilled. From the beginning you are fulfilled. You already realized because the flame is there and it grows and enlightens you. So action becomes a blessing rather than a curse.
Yeah, now as a follow-up, or rather what I was planning to ask initially, to me, as an ancient soul, as one who grew up in India, work is worship was really written in my bones. Now, very recently, what I faced with a client corporation was that I was made to feel quite contrary to that. So the words of bullying, abuse, and harassment were very, permeating the environment. It's one of the world's largest entities. Incessant gaslighting was just like breathing. So my deepest emotions, embodied sensations were not being honored. Far from it, the disrespect was very blatant. They can't feel it because, fish doesn't know the definition of water. However, it took me 4.5 months to be precise with my level of love. For me, work is an offering of love, right? That's how we grow up. And what I saw and what I felt not just got me mentally but physically sick. And it took me a while to get away and realize I was feeling so unsafe. And since there has to be a consequence for overstepping my boundaries, I chose to walk away. Now, the thing is, I'm taking my time, last 1 or 2 months now, to heal my heart. But this is something I wanted to share. The global environment, Makarand used the word workplace, there's tremendous levels of fog. And I'm saying this to all my beloved brothers and sisters here. Fear, obligation, guilt, shame, it's there at a visceral level. We don't feel really love, but quite the opposite of it in heaviness of vibrations, of even apathy. Knowing that, I did offer a video to the world, as I'm also a healer. Spiritual healing is my larger soul mission and calling, and prioritize karmic debt over financial debt, which did hit many people at a visceral level. I want to see how integral yoga can be brought into not just our individual jivatma, but permeate through the way we offer ourselves to the divine.
Do karma yoga. Yeah. Angelo.
Yeah. Angelo, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that that's the nature of the world, and I think it's always kind of been the nature of the world. So I think that's kind of why we're here, there's a lot of that kind of stuff, right? There's a fear or guilt or shame, or people abuse power, there's the whole Mahabharata is about that. So, a part of karma yoga is, becoming strong. And you have to deal with life. You have to deal with active life, and not everybody agrees with you, and not everybody, thinks the way that you think or treats you in the way that you think you ought to be treated. And learning how to tackle those issues is part of life in the world. And so I don't know what more to say about that.
Yeah, karma yoga is the way out for you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, right. You decided you're right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah. So I guess my question takes us a little bit back to nishkam karma and, not having the desire when you're engaging in action. Particularly in the workplace, I find it kind of challenging to then engage in that kind of desireless action, especially because I don't know then where you get the motivation from, or where you get the, I guess even that focus on the outcome from. And I also feel that I was reading in the Mother's Vision a while ago that when you have a little desire, it's almost like you let go of an entity that goes out into the universe to cultivate what you want. And so how do you navigate that? Because isn't desire essential for you to attain the goal you want or the outcome you want, or the situation?
It's interesting because our group is discussing exactly that thing, and of course the desire is a part of life. Yeah? So you want something to be, to become, to go somewhere, to grow into something. So we call it a desire. Sri Aurobindo himself was not against the desire, this word. Yeah? He was using it, the divine desire, and so on. And he cried with adoration and desire to the Divine Mother. So this desire is an intense flame within you. Yeah? which is on the lower level, it is becoming like a desire with attachment. You want to get somewhere. It's a lot of smoke there in the lower vital, in the subtle physical. But the higher it grows, the more it becomes purified, and it becomes the flame without smoke, without moving, and it turns to be an aspiration at the end. And that aspiration is something which we have to cultivate. That aspiration is our new desire, so to say. The desire of the soul, of where we have to go and what we have to become, rather than the desire of some lower parts in us which want to fulfill themselves in spite of you wanting to be somebody or something. And that's what we are dragged usually down by these desires. Smaller creatures, smaller vibrations, smaller beings make us small and miserable. You know, in Dhammapada they say, even the rain of golden coins cannot satisfy the desire. Why? The desire cannot be satisfied. It's just it's just its nature. Sri Aurobindo addresses this very interestingly also. He says that why we are not happy when we realize our desires. We expected something else, you know, something more substantial, and then it is so flat. It's just like nothing happened really. Where is that satisfaction? And that is the nature of desire. Desire is always urgent, always something now or never. You know? That is the vital desire. Aspiration is not like that. It is already satisfying you. When that flame of aspiration is in you, it's like a prayer. You already realize the state of the divine when you pray truly, sincerely. It's already the answer. Yeah, it's sweet. You want to stay in that aspiration. You don't mind not having it realized. You want to continue to aspire more and more to flame. That is aspiration. Desire wants the outcome, the fruit. Yeah? Give me the fruit. So that is the difference. So we have to arrive at that purification of that flame towards aspiration. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is, you have to be the best at what you do. That is yoga. And the mother used to say that the perfection in action is not reserved for the things that you love. It should permeate everything. Everything. The way you do your laundry, the way you put away the utensils after finishing a meal, everything. That level of consciousness being brought to the humblest and smallest tasks, that frees us from that burden, the workplace toxicity and the competition. And see the point you made, you know, the world has to be saved from the asuric forces, you know. And this is universal, that, I mean, it's terrible everywhere. The knives are out. You turn your back and someone wants to do you in and bring you down. And to be detached from all that, survive and even progress, you need grace. You need to be enveloped by the divine force. So one way is that in difficult moments you have to remember an offer, right? And I mean, I was in JNU, I was surrounded by hostile forces, you know, and I just felt, look, I have to do what I know what to do well, and do it as well as I can. So if somebody boycotts you, they do all kinds of things. I used to call it the pancha bakar, bullying, boycott, branding, and finally BS. They bullshit you so that you're just bogged down with nonsense, you know. But then if you do what you know how to do as well as you can, then you're free. At the end of the day, you say, well, I did everything I could possibly do. Now it's up to the divine.
And that's the discipline of yoga. See? So what I'm present to in this conversation is that when we talk about will and the mind and the heart, they become the balance from which we approach anything that we do. And in everything that we do is that pure offering. So it's in my word I use seva, which is my selfless service. So it doesn't matter if it's picking weeds from my neighbor's, walkway, because it's as I approach the door to drop something off, or it's washing the dishes, which is a beautiful thing, because as you're doing it, and you're doing it with the consciousness of the mind, the will, the heart, and particularly the heart is that magnetic energy that is flowing from the divine. Everything is divine. It reminds me of the sage who would walk around and he would pick up these rocks and he'd go, wow, this rock, this is 100,000 rupees. And he puts it in his pocket, and then he goes and he picks up another rock and he goes, oh, this rock is 1 million rupees. And he puts it in his pocket and he offers it to the people. It's like simple. So even though the seva or the work that you're doing is challenging, this is challenging as the gem. It's that light that comes within and without. And we recognize that, and in that recognition, that increases the light around us and increases the light in the people around us as well. So.
I'm curious, for a physician who is treating an ill patient, how easy it for that person treating to have the nashkarma karma, that I'm doing it, and then it is destiny, whatever else. There has to be hard to get rid of the desire to succeed in the treatment you're giving. How do you separate, remove that while you're working the patient?
Well, you offer it to the divine and say, yes, let your will be done. Actually, this happened with the mother. That when they came to the mother to ask blessings, couples for marriage and so on, she said, my blessings are dangerous, because I will address you to the divine, to the truth. So if you don't stand the truth together, then it will show up. My blessing will show up. So this would happen to many couples in Auroville.
Today's world, if the doctor does the best knows and leaves it to divine, and the patient dies, you'd get a lawsuit. So what I'm saying is, it becomes much harder to separate. Is okay in other action when you're dealing with another life, another person's life that may be in your hands. It becomes a lot more challenging, I feel.
Yeah. Nowadays, doctors do not take difficult cases; they avoid them. Yeah, chalo.
So, about the toxic work environment and those kind of things, and I find it easy to do karma yoga if I were doing bagging groceries, flipping burgers, washing dishes. It just seems easier to be connected to the divine. But then, what if one chooses a profession where they're supposed to have a moralistic turn, whether they're they're a judge or they're a doctor or whatever, they're on side of things, and you're supposed to act at a higher moral ground. The only way to succeed these days is if one is sort of a hypocrite, because your training is one thing, like in medicine, for example, you're trained to save the patient and have highest morals when you're treating, but then when you get to work, when you show up to work, it's about meeting quotas, making money, and the term that they use, like you got to just kill it. You know, that's what doctors say to each other. Even to use those kind of terms, that I'm killing it, is how do you function, how do you do yoga, karma yoga, in that kind of a workplace where the priorities become very different from your 30 years of training?
Well, there is an answer most probably HP could give with qualities. Qualities is your way out. If you can really practice it, you become sincere, truly humble, you will find, you will see the way. And people will accept it. Your hostile environment suddenly would be very welcoming you with all your offerings. If you take it personally that you are suppressed, put into the corner, put down, and your ego is reacting, and you want to, to answer to that, and you don't get appreciation for all your hard work, right, then you have it.
I'll just give you like one example. Like if a doctor saves somebody's life, but that person did not have an insurance, and then the hospital system ends up paying $1 million to save that person's life, they will come and talk to the doctor. I'm telling you the real life stories. They will come tell the doctor that you should have thrown that patient out of the hospital one way or another, gotten a taxi or whatever, dumped that patient. You don't want to get them admitted to the hospital and cost us $1 million that we're out. And then if you tell them that, hey, that's not morally right thing, they're like, we got lawyers for that to figure things out if any harm comes your way. But this is how medicine is practiced.
Yeah, then you don't tell them anything. Just keep doing what you have to do the right way. If it is harming I would not tell them anything if it will create consequences for your good work and your growth. Why should you do this? That is their wrong way. You keep right inside, and they will feel it. They would gradually feel that something is not fitting. They will try to convince you, and you will still hold your ground and see what happens. Is it not like that? Yeah. Of course, we are caught into a situation very easily. We want justice, we want truth, but it is not coming so easily through the surface. It needs kind of holding it. Yeah?
Either you don't move, you don't move up in the food chain, or you get thrown out of the system, or you leave.
Right. Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, if that's your process, there's no point to complain about it. If that's a reality, maybe one of those three things happens. Maybe things change, or maybe you find a way to, make it work, or maybe it doesn't. You can say, hey, look, this is what I am. This is what you want to fire me, you can fire me, and then, or you just decide, look, there's something better that I can be doing, that I have to contribute. I mean, the issue comes when, there's this attachment. Well, I don't want people to think I'm a bad doctor, or I don't want to not be a doctor. I want to make a whole lot of money. I want to be successful. And I think that's where we feel the tension or the anxiety, because, we have the feeling like, this is what's right. And yet there's these other forces which try to make us do the wrong thing. You're talking about dharma and adharma anyway, and then we're like, well, what am I mean, basically it boils down to, well, what am I supposed to do, right now? And then that's a very intimate, decision process, but there's no escape. And that's the whole value of karma yoga, is we're faced with, some very kind of intimate, difficult choices sometimes, circumstances, decisions, and that's something you'll never, if you just want to sit and meditate, you can easily simplify your life, just go around, you just got to eat rice, from a bowl, don't get married, whatever it is. And then, you're free to do your meditation or your research or your, sing devotional songs. But, that's the value of karma yoga, and that's why it's so important. And these things, whatever it is, they have to be met and faced and overcome in some way. And that might be leaving, that might be, changing that situation in a positive way, or that might be, failure or getting fired or whatever it is. And those are all valid steps.
Right.
Yeah,
and there are hostile environments. There are, where you cannot do anything. Whatever you do is wrong, because it will work against you. Then you have to find the ground, that deeper ground, that's some kind of sincerity or humility, gratitude. Relate to the image of the true personality in that being, which is kind of covered with this behavioral, wrong. If you can do that psychological work, then most probably things may change. Sometimes not. Sometimes you have to have a rice bowl of rice.
Yes. Before Patricia, I want to add to what Makarand and Vikram were alluding to in this incessant heat of hustling towards quotas or the kill it word being used. I believe this choice between hustling and healing paradigms, we always have a choice in the moment, and the systems at this point in the world are way away from what we are looking at with, from our...
I agree totally.
Yeah, so to move away from these quarterly, short-term gratification statements that Wall Street encourages us to a paradigm of love and healing, opposite of the hustling mindset, and honoring deepest embodied sensations within every jivatma, that takes some doing, and it may or may not happen with me within these larger entities, and that's okay, right, if I'm choosing to walk away. But then it does require some cohesiveness between our hearts, souls, and minds. And I just wanted to...
First of all, we have to be united, yuktas. We have to unite our mind, heart, and will. We are very, very dispersed. We are not one being. Our love is somewhere else, or we feel emotions for something. Our mind says something else. Our will, our word is not with our mind. It's all stretched out. We are not gathered. We are not yuktas. We are not united. We are not one being. So work on yourself. Make yourself one with a bowl of rice. Doesn't matter with what. It will pay back. Then you will find the way through the world, through hostile environments. And there are hostile environments. And it's not so much here also, but if you go to other places, you will have to adjust always to their own ways of doing things which are totally against you, against your vision, against your being even.
Well, I don't know if it's a question, and along the lines, I'm in the medical world, so we, of course, see in these last 4 or 5 years a tremendous breakdown of the way things have worked and not worked. And it's become very challenging for professionals that have had practices that have been very, very good, and suddenly the whole ontology changed, and your colleagues are like thinking differently than you are, and you're like, what happened to that? So the question, is it has to go back to what you're saying, is that we have to become unified in what we know is the truth, and sometimes that means we don't buy into the goals that are set for us that we don't agree with, or the money thing, are going to lose my job, and people have walked away, and what we're seeing happening, because I think this is what's so important right now, is that things are breaking down as we've known them, and we've known that they're going in a direction that's not good for humanity. They're not relevant for humanity in some ways. And so we are the ones in that space of the divine that gets to create with the divine. In this, like you were talking about, as being in that unified space, and go, what's really true for me? Well, if the insurance company is going to, or the lawyers are going to this or that, what's the next step that I take in the divine, in a divine way? And we are the ones creating that new world. We are the ones that are in the space of creating a new world. We're creating that, bringing that divinity into our actions, which is karma.
By the way, one more thing about Sri Aurobindo says in Savitri, do not reveal your secret name to hostile time. So you should not kind of try to be true in the hostile environment. You have to be clever. Yeah, you have to withhold. You should not say the truth, how you see it. This is wrong, this is wrong. You know, to people who are totally wrong, you say this, and what do you expect? You expect, yeah, well, Macron knows he was in the most hostile environment possible. So this is one thing, and the other, there was a thought of, well, it's gone most probably. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just another word on this toxic, work environment, and I relate to Makarand. I don't know exactly what his situation was, but I imagine I was in a similar situation, and one part of me is very relieved to have escaped that environment. But another part of me understand or realize that facing those insane challenges makes somebody grow very fast, and so I don't think we should be afraid or shy away from those kind of challenges or environments, and when our moral principles come up, and I should just get out of here and tell them all off, and that's not always the right thing to do, and sometimes one can't, and I just that whole toxicity exists, and some people have to face that. And if you're in a situation, where you have to face that, you might find that, going through that process really resulted in a whole lot of inner growth, a development of internal strength or capacities which, you didn't know you had. And that makes it somehow worthwhile in the end.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you both, Vladimir and Angelo, and thank everyone for their interest and their questions and their comments on this topic. Maybe we'll just take a few moments of silence before we leave tonight, and then in the morning see you at yoga, breakfast, or here at 9. So let's just take a few moments of silence.